All right, my crazy NASCAR custom diecast fans and followers, welcome into another 164 custom diecast video. Going to try to make this quick. I know I say that a lot, but going to try to make this quick, and then I'll tell you a funny story, and then we'll end with verse number 10. But I had a question. Mr. Henry had asked about why I wait to the end to paint the spoiler. Like, you know, for example, I was working this Michael Annette, Pilot Flying J, and I waited to the end to paint this black. And, yeah. But I don't always do that, right? So I did that here with Manic's car, where I waited to the end to put the spoiler on and to do the little touch-up painting. Yeah, and so the reason and if I can get these words out, my brain can slow down a little bit. Let me slow down a little bit. Kind of excited. Been busy running around so far today. But so in this case, I wanted to get the decal along the trunk in first, and then lay the spoiler decal over top, because sometimes that's not always the perfect straight cut along there, and I wanted the spoiler to go in on top of that. And that's typically the case on why I would wait. In this case, on this car, I went ahead and I painted the spoiler first, because I was already doing some pre-painting of the black along here for this J.J. Yaley car. This is all going to be black along here. So I went ahead and did that, and I painted the spoiler first here, and now I'm in the process of laying the decals on. And you know, I also painted across this front and around this wheel well, as you can see, because a lot of this is black. So yeah, so in this case I painted it first, and in this case I waited to the end. Same thing here on this one. I waited until the end to paint this spoiler. I'll be honest, in this case here, the hardest part was getting this decal in across the front, and then the next hardest part was going to be this spoiler. On these Xfinity, kind of the more recent ones, the spoiler is it's not slanted. You can see this one is kind of slanted. See how it's kind of slanted back? And this one is kind of like almost straight up and down, almost like a 90 degree. And this one's slanted. When it's 90 degrees like this, it makes it very difficult to get my paintbrush in there. Or actually, it's my paint pen. So this is my gloss paint pen here. So you can see how I got that, you know, the tip is like that. It's very hard to get that in there without touching the top of the decal or that trunk. So what I've done, I think the last few that I've done this, is I've actually used the spoiler decals. And what I've done is I've cut it out just the length here and then a small little piece there to be able to get that nice straight edge in there. And then I paint all around it. And I paint actually a little bit on top of it as well. Maybe you could see that there. See how that is? You can see the decal in there and then the paint. Once I get multiple coats of sealer on it, it'll be much harder to tell the difference. But I do that because, again, I don't want to get the paint pen on the surface. And actually doing this on these white cars, a little fuzzy there, it's I'm very nervous. You know, I can paint this back, you know, pretty easily. I can see a little, it's not 100% straight across there, because that's, you know, it's a little raised edge there. But going across that front side, it's just, it makes me nervous. And so I started using those decals, the black decals, the last few of the Xfinity ones that I've made. So I don't know, Henry, if that helps you at all. You know, but that's that. So let me look at a few more that I'm going to be working. And you can see I'm working multiple ones at a time. I get something, I paint, I let it dry, and I start working on something else. But like, for example, this Katera one. So it's all white where I'm at. So it's all white on the back here, and then the sides are white here, but the trunk lid doesn't get painted. So I will probably wait until the end to paint this black, because I'm probably going to have a little bit of overlap where the decal is going to bump up against the spoiler. And I'll put that in, and then I'll put a couple coats of clear sealer on it, and then I'll paint the spoiler. That's probably how I will do that. Because, again, I don't want to get paint right on a kind of a bare decal. So I'll wait to do that one. So this one here, this 5-hour energy, where it's all black around here, so it'll be all black here and all black here up along the sides. So I will paint this first. I'll paint this whole area, and I don't have to be too cautious about it. I just paint this whole area black, and I'll get that all done, and then I'll lay these decals on over top of it. So in this case, I'll paint the spoiler first before I get to the decals. And let's see about this Jeffrey Earnhardt. So let's see. Yeah, this is one of those Xfinity cars, Chevys, and where the spoiler is really, kind of straight up and down there. So I will paint this black here first, because this is black, so I might as well get that painted black first. And I've got coverage here on the sides, so I can kind of be a little liberal on this front end. But looking on the back end, I've got to be super careful, because this is not black along the bumper. So actually, probably what I'll do is I'll take this decal here. It's interesting that the Chevy logo is way up there. It looks like it's on the spoiler. That's weird. I'll have to look at the pictures of this car and just see if that's the case, because that's kind of odd. Maybe it's not. Maybe. All right. Now I got my interest piqued. I got to cut this out. I want to see how this looks. I have to be honest, guys. That's kind of an odd setup. I'm wondering. Let's pull that apart there. Because you've got the normal spoiler decals here. This is kind of an odd setup. I wonder if that's the way it is. Yeah. I mean, look at that. I mean, I'll separate this out so I can get that on the bottom, and then I'll move that up there. Okay, so that looks like the length of the spoiler, but it actually goes on the bumper there. Okay. So again, yeah, I'll paint this black first, and then I'll put the decals on for that particular car. So yeah, so just wanted to do a kind of a quick video showing, because Henry asked that question, and I wanted to get an answer out to him that probably a little bit more than I could type up and explain in a little paragraph. But yeah, so working this, want to try to finish this up today, and Mannix, I got yours. I was looking at your pictures you sent in the email. This is black across the bottom, so I'll leave that black. What I'll also do is, looks like I've got to do these roof lines orange, and I'll run that all the way down here on this side, and then this one all the way down across there to the back. And I've got to do a little touch up along here. And then I'll go ahead and continue with the sealing process, get the matte finish on it where it needs to go, and then probably need to go back and touch up where the decals are and try to get that glossed up for you. Hopefully I won't screw it up. Sometimes when you're working with that matte sealer, because it's kind of an enamel based, it's a little particular. So I've got to be careful not to get it on the decals too much without that protection, and mess up the decal. And then Doug, I'm working this. I've got that on the back. Pretty happy with that. And then I put this piece on yesterday, and this was a pain in the backside. So you've got the hood decal, and then you've got this piece that lays here, and it connects in with the hood. And I needed to trim it around so I wouldn't cover up the Android lettering, and lay that in place. Pretty happy with it. You can see I've got a little wrinkle there, but a lot of microsole. You can see how it just wraps in nicely and gives it that, like it says, that painted on look. Looks really nice. Real happy with that, with how that turned out. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but yeah, that was an interesting effort trying to get that in there to lay nice. So my funny story is I was painting, and I told you how my wife was pretty upset about it. This was actually last week. She could smell the paint, and I was like trying to dissipate it with some candles and some other things, the fan, and just trying to open some windows upstairs. Well, lo and behold, I opened up one of the windows, and it was one of those that you kind of fold down and then you fold it back up, and I had folded it down to clean it, and then I had pushed it back up into place, thought I was good, walked away, the window fell and slammed into the windowsill and busted. So, oh man, so now I gotta replace a stinking window. So this painting and that smell and my stupidity is going to cost me some money. Oh man, oh well. Such is life, you know. It's clearly all my fault, but yeah, I felt pretty stupid about that. But oh well. That's the stupidest thing I do this month, and maybe that's a blessing. All right, let's look at verse 10. And this one is a little long. It's time. I had labeled it time. Ephesians 5:14-16. Wherefore he saith, Awake, thou that sleepeth, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. So you got verse 14, verse 15, and then verse 16 of Ephesians chapter 5. And this is where Paul, writing to the church at Ephesus, is kind of transitions. His first few chapters are kind of doctrine and overarching instruction. And then the last three chapters, he gets into some really practical advice, and not really advice, actually. It's kind of commands to the church and how they need to function as a church. And one of the problems, and this is a problem that was 2,000 years ago, it was a problem, and it's a problem today. The church, at times, is asleep. There are different people in the church that may be asleep, and the idea is that you're asleep spiritually. And you need to be awakened. You need to rise up and shine. He says, Arise from the dead. Christ shall give thee light. And so, yes, these are Christians. They've been saved. They've been born again. But they are not living the Christian life as Christ wants them to. And so he says, hey, wake up. Arise, shine. I remember my dad coming into my bedroom like on a Saturday morning, much earlier, as a teenager than I ever wanted him to. And he'd be like, Arise and shine, let's go. We got chores to do today. I'd be like, come on, man. But I love him for it because he instilled in me an attitude of getting up early and working. But anyways, so yeah, different things make me think of my parents and maybe my childhood, and some good, some bad. But this is Arise and shine. Christ shall give you light. And then he says, walk or live carefully. This circumspectly is an interesting King James word. Walk carefully with discretion. Got to watch out. Don't be a fool. but wise. He says, redeem the time. And again, that's an interesting phrase, redeeming. You're buying back this time. You are not letting the moments of your day, of your hour, to slip away doing something foolish. So he says, don't miss, and this is what he means, don't miss opportunities to do good. Plan ahead. Think about what you're going to do in the next hour. Pray. Ask the Holy Spirit to lead and guide you on what you're going to do. Buy up these opportunities in the next hour, in the next day, in the next week, to do something good, to be proactive and do something good. Don't waste your time. Don't squander it. It's a very interesting word, squander. I feel at times, guys, I have squandered my life, and it's depressing to think that way, but I wake up each day, got a new opportunity, a new day to do something good for somebody. And then he says, because the days are evil. And I tell you what, guys, 1 Corinthians tells us that, or 2 Corinthians tells us that Satan is the god of this world. It seems that he's running things down here in this world system. Evil things are happening, but we know ultimately God is sovereign. He's ultimately in control. And it may appear for a time that the days are evil, but we have to be careful. We have to be walking circumspectly, carefully. So, a little long-winded there, but yeah, Ephesians 5, verses 14 to 16. And that whole chapter, man, Ephesians is a wonderful, wonderful book. What a great study to look at Ephesians. 6 chapters of great, pure joy. All right, guys. Hope you have a great day. Hope this is helpful to you all as you're making your customs, and we'll talk to you later. God bless.